Welcome to Noir Street, a channel where every story carries a mystery or something even darker. Our community may be small, so please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like and tell us in the comments which part of the world you're watching from. Now let's begin the story. Chapter 1. The one rule I have lived by rules because they protect order, and order protects reason. Fritz Brenner has lived by rules too. Chiefly, the one that says he tells me everything. When that rule broke, I did not hear it shatter. I felt it. The brownstone breathed differently that morning. Silence, when earned, is respectable. When hidden, it is dangerous. That is not the sort of opening line I usually get away with. If I wrote it in the Gazette, they would send it back and ask me whether I had swallowed a dictionary whole. But that morning, the air of West 35th Street had a weight to it, and the weight started in the kitchen. I was on the third step above the hall when I heard the sound that didn't belong. Fritz's knife tapping a board too fast, like a man trying to drown out his own thoughts. Fritz is not a tapper. Fritz is a composer. He does not hurry a knife. He teaches it manners. I went down, and there he was at the big table, sleeves rolled, hair as neat as the icing on one of his cakes, making thin slices of something. Veal, I thought, too sharply, as if the veal had insulted him. "Morning," I said. He glanced at me, smiled, and the smile had a crack in it. "Good morning, Archie. You're up an hour early." I wanted to. He stopped. Not because he couldn't find words. Fritz always has words. He stopped because his words were going somewhere he had decided they shouldn't. I waited. And so did he, with the knife poised above the veal, like a judge's gavel. "You wanted to what?" I asked. "To make something special for Mr. Wolfe." His eyes flicked away. "For luncheon." That was plausible. Fritz made something special for Mr. Wolfe every day, and if he had started early, he had a reason. But the reason wasn't veal, and it wasn't luncheon, and it sure wasn't my face. "Anything new?" I asked, casual. "Number." He went back to slicing, the tap-tap of the knife making a liar out of him. I leaned against the pantry door and watched him. The kitchen smelled like coffee and butter and something else, something faint and metallic, as if a penny had been warmed on the stove. Fritz kept his gaze on his board. Usually, when I wandered in, he would comment on my tie or ask my opinion of a sauce. That morning he was practicing not seeing me. When Fritz practices something, it is for a reason. I went upstairs. Nero Wolfe's bedroom door was closed. So was his bathroom door. Those doors are rarely closed at this hour. Not because Mr. Wolfe is sociable, but because he is orderly. The house runs on routine. If doors are closed out of schedule, it means that someone has changed a cog in the clock. At 8:15, the bedroom door opened, and Nero Wolfe came out like a ship leaving harbor, slow, sure, and occupying the entire passage. He wore his yellow silk pajama top, his red dressing gown, and an expression that said the world had misbehaved before breakfast. "Good morning, Archie," he said, and it sounded like a statement of fact he could prove with witnesses. Morning. Fritz is slicing veal like it owes him money. I have not instructed Fritz to be vindictive toward the calf. He moved toward the elevator. "Beer." I followed him. Wolfe likes his breakfast as he likes his life, unquestioned. He sat at the table in the dining room, the one that looks like it could seat a congressional committee, and Fritz served him as if nothing in the universe could ever be out of place. Ham and eggs, coffee, fresh fruit, toast, and the beer dark, frothy, honest. Wolfe took a swallow and looked at Fritz over the rim of the glass. "Your coffee is excellent," Wolfe said. "Thank you, sir." Fritz's voice was correct. His hands were correct. His eyes were not. They were careful. Wolfe's eyes are not merely eyes. They are instruments. He watched Fritz with the precision of a man weighing gold dust. "Archie," Wolfe said, after a moment, "you may go to the office." That meant something. It meant Wolfe did not want Fritz in the room with me listening. It meant Wolfe had smelled what I had smelled, and he intended to let it ripen. In the office, I settled at my desk with the morning mail. Saul Panzer had left a note about a witness who had decided to go to Florida rather than face cross-examination. Fred Durkin had written that he would be late with the report because his aunt had decided to die at an inconvenient time. Typical. At 8:50, the bell rang. I didn't go. I waited, because the bell rang again, and then the bell rang a third time, short and sharp, as if the finger on the button was impatient with the existence of doors. I went to the front hall and opened the door. A woman stood there in a coat that had been expensive and was now being kept alive by pride. She was in her late 30s, tall, slender, with a face that had good bones and bad sleep. Her eyes were grey and steady, and her mouth was tight, as if she had learned that feeling was a luxury. "Is Nero Wolfe in?" she asked. "He is," I said. "Are you?" She blinked. "I beg your pardon. Are you a client, a process server, or a person who has come to tell us that our insurance has lapsed?" Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. "I am a client. My name is Marion Hester." The name meant nothing to me, which was fine. New names are the best kind in my business. "Come in," I said. "Wolfe doesn't take walk-ins, but he does take appointments, and he sometimes takes surprises. Let's see which one you are." Wolfe emerged from the elevator with his usual reluctance to spend time away from his orchids, and sat behind his desk as if it had been built around him. He looked at Marion Hester with mild irritation, as if she had interrupted a thought. "Miss Hester," he said, "you are not expected." "I know," she said. Her voice was low, controlled. "I couldn't telephone." Wolfe's eyebrows rose a fraction. "You could not?" "I did not dare." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Why?" She reached into her bag and withdrew an envelope. Not a pretty envelope, a plain one, as if it had been chosen for anonymity. She placed it on Wolfe's desk. "I received this yesterday," she said, "by messenger. No name, no return address." Wolfe did not touch it. He looked at it, then at her. "What is in it?" A note. Her fingers tightened on the edge of her bag. "And money." Wolfe's eyes went to the envelope again. "Money. Yes." She swallowed. $5,000 in cash. That made my ears perk. $5,000 is a lot of cash to send to someone you're not courting or robbing. "And the note?" Wolfe asked. Marion Hester's eyes stayed on Wolfe. It said, "You will do exactly as instructed. You will speak to no one. You will not telephone the police. You will not telephone Mr. Wolfe. You will not leave your apartment. You will admit the man who will come tomorrow at 6, and you will sign what he puts before you. If you do not, something will happen to your sister." She paused. "My sister is 22. Her name is Lila. She is fragile." Wolfe's voice was dry. "That is not a term I find reassuring." "She has a heart condition," Marion said. And there it was, a flicker of feeling quickly covered. "If she is frightened or harmed." Wolfe held up a hand. "I am not a physician, continue." "I did not leave my apartment yesterday," Marion went on. "I did not telephone. I did not speak to anyone, except my sister. I told her we were ill and could not go out. At 6 this morning, a man came." Wolfe's eyebrows lifted. "This morning?" "He came early," she said. "At 6:10. He was polite. He carried a briefcase. He said, 'Miss Hester, you know what this is. Sign.' He put papers on my table. I did not sign. I told him I needed to read them." Wolfe made a sound that might have been approval or indigestion, the man said. Marion continued, "You were told not to make trouble." I said I had to know what I was signing. He looked at my sister, and then he said, "We will come again." And he left. She exhaled slowly, as if forcing herself to keep her composure. At 7:15, my sister had an attack. Not severe, but she was frightened. So was I. I decided I could not wait. I came here. Wolfe stared at her. When Wolfe stares, it is not rude. It is diagnostic. "You violated the instructions," Wolfe said. "Yes." Her chin lifted. "I did. because if I sign something that ruins my life, my sister will be ruined too. I need help." Wolfe leaned back. The obvious remedy would be to go to the police. "I cannot," she said quickly. "If the threat is real, if they are watching, if they know." "Have you evidence that you are being watched?" Wolfe asked. She hesitated. "Not evidence, only a feeling." I cleared my throat. "If someone can send $5,000 in cash and a messenger and a polite man with a briefcase, they can also send a man with a wrench." Marian's eyes flicked to me. "Exactly." Wolfe's face showed mild distaste, as if I had mentioned a bodily function at the table. "Mr. Goodwin," he said, "your imagination is tiresome. It keeps me alive," I said. Wolfe looked at Marian Hester again. "What are the papers you were asked to sign?" "I did not read them," she said. "I was too frightened. I only saw the top page." "And what did you see?" She swallowed. The words quitclaim deed. That got Wolfe's attention. It got mine too. Quitclaim deeds are not romantic documents. "To what property?" Wolfe asked. "I don't know," she said. "I didn't look. I was afraid if I looked, I would be forced to sign because then it would be real." Wolfe's lips tightened. "You are not stupid, Miss Hester. You are frightened. That is an improvement." She drew herself up. "Will you help me?" Wolfe stared at her for another long moment, then turned his head slightly. Toward me, that tiny movement was Wolfe's version of rolling up his sleeves. "Archie," he said, "how many forms of imbecility can you identify in this narrative?" I grinned. "At least 3, but I'm not sure whether to count the polite man with the briefcase as a separate species." Wolfe ignored me. He looked at Marian Hester. "My fee is substantial." "I have $5,000, she said, gesturing toward the envelope. "It was meant to buy my obedience. It can buy your help." Wolfe's eyes went to the envelope again. "It is rarely wise to accept money from an unknown party." "It is mine now," she said, and there was steel in her voice. "They gave it to me." Wolfe's mouth twisted. "They gave it to you because they expected you to comply. You did not. Now, they may attempt to retrieve it in another manner." Marian's face went pale. "Then I need you more." Wolfe folded his hands on his stomach. "Very well, Mr. Goodwin will accompany you to your apartment immediately. He will determine what has occurred, what may occur, and what we can do to prevent it. You will tell him everything, including any detail you have omitted." Marian looked relieved, and then anxious again. "Will you come?" "I do not leave my house," Wolfe said, as if stating that gravity exists. "Mr. Goodwin is competent." I stood. "I'll do my best not to get us both killed before lunch." Wolfe's eyes narrowed at me. "Do not be melodramatic. Also, Mr. Goodwin, do not allow yourself to be provoked into violence. It is messy." "I'll keep it tidy," I said. Marian Hester rose. I guided her to the front hall. As I opened the door for her, Fritz appeared from the kitchen doorway, carrying a silver tray with a cup of coffee for Wolfe. Fritz's face was composed, but his eyes met mine, and in that quick look, I saw what I had suspected. He was holding something back. When Marian stepped out onto the stoop, Fritz moved closer and spoke softly, not to Marian, but to me. "Archie," he murmured, "be careful." That, from Fritz, was like a fire alarm. I gave him a look. "About what?" He hesitated, just a fraction, but enough. "There are. People sometimes they are not kind." "What people?" I asked. Fritz's jaw tightened. "Please, be careful." Fritz doesn't warn me unless he has reason. And Fritz doesn't have reason, unless he knows something. Marian was already halfway down the steps. Moving briskly, head up, like a woman who had decided to be brave because she had no alternative. I followed, but my mind stayed in the brownstone for an extra heartbeat, with Fritz and his silence. On the sidewalk, the air was sharp with December. New York was doing its usual imitation of indifference, taxis honking, men in hats hurrying, a delivery boy swearing at a lamppost, the city pretending it didn't care whether you lived or died. We hailed a cab. Marion gave an address on Riverside Drive. In the low 90s, not poor, not Park Avenue, respectable. A place where people have doormen and secrets. In the cab, I watched Marion's hands. They were steady now, but the steadiness looked practiced. "Tell me about your sister," I said. She looked out the window. "Lila is gentle. She is not suited for this." "Few people are," I said. "Any idea who would threaten her to get you to sign a quitclaim deed?" "No," she said. "I work at the Arden Trust Company. I handle small estates. Nothing grand. Nothing that would attract this." "Any relatives besides Lila?" I asked. "Our parents are dead," she said. "We have an uncle, my mother's brother, Paul Larkin. He lives in Connecticut. We see him twice a year." "Any boyfriends?" I asked. Her eyes flicked to me. "Number enemies," I pressed. "I don't make enemies," she said. And the way she said it told me that she had discovered enemies make themselves. The cab dropped us in front of a building with a doorman who had shoulders like a refrigerator and a face like a shut door. Marion nodded to him and moved to the elevator, and I followed. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the brass. I looked like Archie Goodwin, hat, overcoat, tie that I had chosen for morale, and the expression of a man who expects trouble because he has been right too often. Marion's apartment was on the 10th floor. She unlocked the door, stepped in, and called. "Lila," a soft voice answered from inside. "In here." We went in. The living room was neat and tasteful, with the kind of furniture that says someone has read articles about comfort. A fire had been laid, but not lit. The curtains were half drawn, admitting grey daylight. Lila Hester was on the sofa with a blanket over her knees. She was pale, with fine hair and eyes too large for her face. She smiled at her sister, and the smile was brave and wobbly. "You went out," Lila said, and her voice trembled slightly. "I had to," Marion said, going to her and taking her hand. "This is Archie Goodwin. He works with Mr. Wolfe. He will help us." Lila's eyes went to me, Mr. Wolfe. Her voice held a child's wonder. "The detective." "That's him," I said. "He's bigger in person, mostly around the waist." Lila gave a small laugh that ended in a cough. Marion stiffened. "Are you all right?" Marion asked quickly. "Yes," Lila said. But her hand tightened on Marion's. "I'm fine." I looked around the room. Neat, tasteful, calm, too calm. Calm can be staged, like a photograph. I walked to the table near the window. There was a vase with water and no flowers, as if someone had planned to buy flowers and had not dared to go out. "Where did the man sit?" I asked Marion. "At the dining table," she said. She pointed to a small dining area off the living room. "He put the papers there." "Did he touch anything else?" I asked. He only sat, opened his case, and put the papers down. He did not look around. "Did he leave the papers?" I asked. When I refused to sign, he put them back into his case and left. That was consistent with a man who didn't want evidence lying around, or a man who didn't want Marion to have time to think. I moved toward the small hall that led to the bedrooms. "May I look around?" I asked. Marion nodded. "Yes." I walked down the hall. The doors were closed. I opened one. Marion's bedroom neat, bed made. A dresser with a brush and comb aligned like soldiers. I opened the closet door. Coats, dresses, shoes, ordinary. I opened the second door. Lila's room smaller. A bed with a quilt. A night table with medicine bottles arranged in a row. A book open on the pillow. A glass of water. I looked at the medicine bottles. Names I didn't know, but the arrangement told me that someone took them seriously. I came back to the living room. Marion had moved to the window and was peering out between the curtains. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "I don't know," she said softly. "Some own anyone." I joined her at the window. 10 floors up, we had a view of Riverside Drive and the park beyond. Cars moved below, small and indifferent. People walked, heads down. I saw nothing that looked like a watcher, because watchers don't look like watchers when they're good at it. Any visitors yesterday besides the messenger? I asked. No, Marion said. No one. Do you still have the envelope? I asked. It's in my bag, she said. Give it to me, I said. Wolfe will want it, and I want to look at it now. She handed me her bag. I took out the envelope. It had been opened neatly, as if by someone with patience. I sniffed it. Old habit. Paper smells like paper, unless someone has done something to it. This smelled faintly of tobacco, the kind that comes in expensive tins. Did the messenger say anything? I asked. He said. Delivery for Miss Hester. That is all. A uniform? I asked. No, she said. Plain clothes, a cap? I nodded. Okay, here's what I want you to do, Marion. You and Lila stay together. Don't open the door to anyone. If the man comes again, you tell him through the door that you are consulting counsel and will not sign anything. You do not engage in conversation. You do not threaten him. You do not mention Wolfe, understood? Marion's eyes tightened. Yes. I turned to Lila. And you, Miss Hester, if you feel unwell, you tell your sister at once. No heroics. Lila nodded, wide-eyed. I stepped to the phone on the side table. I was about to pick it up to call Wolfe when I noticed the cord. It wasn't plugged into the wall. That could happen if someone had moved a table and not bothered to plug it back. But the cord had been looped neatly behind the table. Not an accident. A decision. I looked at Marion. Did you unplug the phone? No, she said. Her face changed. Number, I didn't. I crouched and looked at the outlet. The plug was intact. No fraying. Just removed. Then someone else did, I said. Marion's lips parted. But we didn't let anyone in. Someone doesn't need to come in to frighten you, I said. But someone came in, Marion. Or someone had a key. Her hand went to her throat. The doorman. Don't blame anyone yet, I said. We don't have facts. We have a phone unplugged. That's a clue, not a verdict. I plugged it in. The dial tone was there, steady as a heartbeat. I dialed the brownstone. Fritz answered on the second ring. This is Archie, I said. Put Wolfe on. There was a pause. Too long for Fritz to simply walk to the office. Then Wolfe's voice came on, sharp and impatient. Yes, Archie, Wolfe, I said, keeping my voice even. The phone here was unplugged. Marion didn't do it. Also, Fritz warned me to be careful, which is like a priest warning you about sin. There was silence. Wolfe's silence is never empty. It is full of thinking. Did Fritz warn you? Wolfe asked. Yes. Did he explain? Number. Annoying, Wolfe muttered. Proceed. There may be someone with a key, I said. Or someone in the building helping them. Also, whoever threatened Marion expects her to sign a quitclaim deed, unknown property. We need to find what property she owns or is heir to. Wolfe's voice sharpened. Ask her. I will, I said. And Wolfe, if this turns violent, I might have to get impolite. I prefer you remain alive, Wolfe said. Impoliteness may be a necessary concession. Call again soon. He hung up. I turned back to Marion. All right, now we get facts, Marion. Do you own any property besides this apartment? No, she said. This apartment is rented. Any inherited property? I asked. Number, she hesitated. Not that I know of. I stared at her. Not that you know of is not the same as no. She licked her lips. My father. He owned a small piece of land upstate, near Kingston. He sold it years ago. Years ago, I repeated. How many? 10, she said. Maybe more. Did he sell it himself? I asked. Yes, she said, and then her eyes shifted slightly, as if she had remembered something and didn't like it. He sold it to a man named Dana. I remember because the name sounded harsh. Dana, I said, filing it. What was on the land? I asked. Nothing, she said. Just trees. It was useless. Useless land is the kind that suddenly becomes priceless when someone finds out there's oil under it, or when someone decides to build something on it, or when it turns out it was never really sold. I was about to ask more when the doorbell rang. We all froze. Even the city noise outside seemed to pause. Marian's eyes went to the door. Lila's hand tightened on the blanket. The bell rang again. I moved quietly to the hall. I didn't look through the peephole right away. I listened. I heard a faint rustle, the subtle shift of a man standing close to a door. I put my mouth near the door. "Who is it?" A man's voice came. Smooth, polite, and that politeness was like a razor hidden in velvet. "Miss Hester, I am here for your signature." Marian's face went white. Lila made a small sound. Half gasp, half sob. He kept my voice steady. "Miss Hester is not available, leave." There was a pause. "Mr. Goodwin," the voice said, "you should not be here." That made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Not because he knew my name, that could be arranged, because he said it like he had been expecting me. I glanced at Marian. "Stay with Lila," I mouthed. Then I called through the door, "You have the advantage, you know me." "I don't know you." "You will," the voice said. "Open the door." "No," I said. "Talk through it. What do you want Marian to sign?" "A quitclaim deed," he said, as if discussing the weather, "and a release." "A release from what?" I asked. There was a tiny laugh. "From her claim." "What claim?" I pressed. "Open the door," he said again, and his voice hardened. The velvet was gone. "Open it, or I will make a noise." "Make a noise," I said. "It might attract attention." Then I heard something else, a soft click, like metal, touching metal. My hand went to my pocket where I had a small gun. I didn't like to use, but liked to have. I didn't pull it. A door between you and trouble is still a door, and a gun between you and jail is still a gun. The click came again. He wasn't making a noise. He was doing something. I bent and looked at the crack under the door. A thin, flat piece of metal slid along the floor toward the latch. A knife, maybe. A tool. Something meant to coax the door into betraying us. I stood up straight and spoke loudly, so Marian and Lila could hear, and so the man could hear the confidence in my voice, whether I felt it or not. "If you force entry, I will treat you as a burglar." The metal paused. Then it withdrew. There was a long silence. Then the man spoke softly, almost conversational. "You will leave now, Mr. Goodwin. Miss Hester will sign later. This is not your affair." "It became my affair when you threatened a sick kid," I said. Silence again. Then, from the other side of the door, a new sound. Something heavier shifting. A breath, a decision. I took one step back. The door handle turned. But I hadn't touched it. And Marian hadn't touched it. And the chain wasn't on, because Marian, in her fear, had never used it, and I hadn't thought to. The latch clicked. The door began to open, not from a key, from the inside, as if someone had turned the knob from within the apartment. I stared at it, my stomach going cold, because there were only 3 people in here, and none of us was standing at the door. "Behind me." Marian whispered my name, and her voice was thin with terror. The door moved another inch, and I understood, in one clean, ugly flash, why the phone had been unplugged. Someone had been in this apartment before we arrived. Someone was in it now. Chapter 2. A misplaced delivery. A crate arrived at the house without warning, marked only with a butcher's stamp, and no return name. Fritz insisted it was an error, and ordered it removed before I could inspect it. That alone would have earned my attention. Fritz does not interfere with my curiosity. When he does, something has already gone wrong. I was not present when the crate first made its entrance. That honor went to the brownstone itself, which has a way of receiving intrusions with a kind of offended dignity. The front steps creaked. The bell rang once, long and respectful. And then, because the bell was not answered quickly enough, it rang again with the flat insistence of commerce. By the time I came down from the office, Fritz was already in the hall, standing between the door and the deliveryman, like a courteous but immovable fact. "I tell you, this is not for us," Fritz was saying, his voice smooth and controlled, the way it gets when he is angry but refuses to admit it. "You must take it back." The deliveryman was young, thick-necked, and wearing the kind of apron that suggests blood is an occupational hazard. He had a clipboard tucked under one arm, and an expression that said he was paid by the hour, and did not intend to donate any of them to philosophical debate. "Address matches," he said. "West 35th says private residence. No name. That's not my fault." Fritz's lips thinned. "It is not my fault either." I stepped closer and took a look past Fritz's shoulder. The crate sat on the mosaic floor of the hall, like an accusation. Rough pine boards, nailed shut, about 4 feet long and 2 feet wide. On one side, stenciled in red, was a butcher's stamp. No company name, just a circular mark and a number. There was no address label, no shipping invoice, no helpful information at all. That was enough to interest me. "What's in it?" I asked. The deliveryman shrugged. "Meat, I guess. That's what the stamp means." "Guessing is dangerous," I said. "Did you guess when you crossed the street?" He looked at me without humor. "You want it or not?" "No," Fritz said sharply. "We do not want it. You will remove it at once." That was the moment I knew we had a problem. Fritz does not decide things at once, he considers. He weighs. He consults his sense of order, which is better than most people's sense of justice. When Fritz gives a sharp order without consultation, especially one that involves removing an unknown object from the house, it means he already knows something I don't. I turn to him. "Hold it. Wolfe hasn't seen it yet." Fritz's eyes flicked to me, and for an instant the calm cracked. "Archie, please. This is a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" I asked. "The kind that should be corrected quickly," he said. The deliveryman cleared his throat. "Look, I got another stop. If you don't want it, I'll take it back. But I need a signature that you refuse delivery." "Fine," Fritz said. "I will sign." "Hold it," I said again, louder this time. Nero Wolfe appeared at the top of the stairs, like an avalanche deciding whether to descend. "What is this noise?" he demanded. "A crate," I said. "A mysterious crate." Wolfe's eyes narrowed as they took in the scene. Fritz, rigid, the deliveryman, bored, the crate mute and uncooperative. "Who sent it?" Wolfe asked. "No one named," I said. "What does it contain?" Wolfe asked. "No one knows," I said. Wolfe's eyes shifted to Fritz. "Why has it not been opened?" Fritz hesitated. That hesitation was brief, but it was real, and Wolfe caught it like a man catching a dropped coin. "Fritz," Wolfe said softly and dangerously, "why has it not been opened?" Fritz drew a breath. "Because, sir, it should not be here." "That is not an answer," Wolfe said. "That is an opinion." The deliveryman shuffled his feet. "So what's it gonna be?" Wolfe ignored him. He looked at Fritz with the full weight of his attention. "Fritz," Wolfe said, "you have lived in this house for over 30 years. In that time you have never presumed to decide what I should or should not see. If you do so now, you must have a reason stated." Fritz's hands tightened briefly, then relaxed. I recognized the stamp. That landed. Wolfe's eyebrows rose a fraction. "From where?" "From a butcher on 9th Avenue, Fritz said. "One who does not sell to private houses, only to institutions." "Define institutions," Wolfe said, Fritz's mouth set. "Restaurants that cater to a certain kind of client." "Criminal?" Wolfe asked. Fritz hesitated again. "Discreet." Wolfe's eyes flicked to the crate. "Does the butcher sell anything besides meat?" "Yes," Fritz said quietly. "What?" Wolfe demanded. "Containers," Fritz said. "Ice crates, items used when one does not wish a thing to be seen." The hall was very quiet. I looked at the crate again. It hadn't moved, but it felt heavier. Wolfe turned his gaze to the deliveryman. "Young man, you will take that crate into the office." The deliveryman blinked. "I thought you didn't want it." "I did not say that," Wolfe said. I said nothing, Mr. Goodwin. Supervise. Mr. Wolfe. Fritz, Wolfe said, without looking at him. You have my confidence. You have abused it once this morning. Do not compound the error. That ended the discussion. The deliveryman and I maneuvered the crate into the office. It scraped on the floor, protesting, as if it knew better than to go where it was being taken. We set it down in the middle of the rug. Wolfe sat behind his desk, immobile, watching it as if it might sprout legs. Sign here, the deliveryman said, holding out his clipboard. Wolfe waved a dismissive hand. Mr. Goodwin. I signed. The deliveryman handed me the carbon copy, took his clipboard, and left with visible relief. When the door closed, Fritz remained in the hall. He did not follow us into the office. That was another deviation from routine, and Wolfe noted it. Fritz, Wolfe called, come here. Fritz entered slowly, his face composed, but pale. You recognize the stamp, Wolfe said. Explain fully. Fritz nodded. The butcher's name is Gallo. He supplies certain nightclubs, places where things happen that should not be remembered. He also supplies ice and crates for transport. Transport of what? Wolfe asked. Fritz swallowed. Sometimes of meat, sometimes of people. That got my attention in a hurry. Wolfe's eyes hardened. Why would such a crate be sent here? I do not know, Fritz said, but I know that when Gallo's stamp appears without a name, it is meant to frighten. Wolfe leaned back slightly. Fear is an inefficient tool unless it is precise. This is imprecise. Unless, I said, it's a message. Wolfe nodded. Precisely. A message to whom? His eyes went to me. To you, I said. And why me? Wolfe asked. I thought of Marion Hester, of the quitclaim deed, of the unseen man in the apartment, of Fritz's warning. Because someone wants your attention, I said, or wants to remind you that they exist. Wolfe snorted. They have succeeded. Now open it. Fritz stiffened. Mr. Wolfe. Open it, Wolfe repeated. I fetched a pry bar from the hall closet. The nails came up reluctantly, complaining the way nails do when they've been driven with conviction. The lid creaked, then lifted. We all leaned forward. Inside the crate was ice, blocks of it wrapped in burlap, and nestled among them, like a secret someone had tried to keep cold, was a smaller package wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. I reached in and lifted it out. It was heavy, too heavy for paper. I set it on Wolfe's desk and unwrapped it carefully, wrapped in butcher's paper, trimmed neatly. The kind of thing Fritz might have turned into a masterpiece. Then I saw the hand. It was human. The hand was pale, the fingers slightly curled, the nails clean. The wrist had been severed cleanly, expertly. Whoever had done it knew how to use a knife. For a moment, no one spoke. Fritz made a sound in his throat and turned away. Wolfe did not move. He stared at the hand with an expression of pure concentration, as if it were a chess problem. Remove it, Wolfe said calmly. Wrap it again. I did as instructed, swallowing the bile that tried to climb my throat. This, Wolfe said, is intolerable. No argument, I said. It is also foolish, Wolfe continued. A threat that invites investigation rather than compliance. Maybe. They're not subtle, I said. On the contrary, Wolfe said, this is very subtle. It says, we can reach you. We know where you live. We know your habits. We are willing to be obscene. He paused. It also says something else. What? I asked. That they are frightened, Wolfe said. I stared at him. You don't scare people by mailing them body parts unless you're confident. Unless, Wolfe said, you have failed by other means. That made sense, and I didn't like it. Wolfe turned to Fritz. You will dispose of this appropriately. Fritz nodded, grateful for the instruction. Archie, Wolfe said, telephone Inspector Kramer. Tell him that an object has arrived that will interest him. Do not describe it. I went to the phone. When Kramer answered, his voice was already annoyed. What is it now, Wolfe? A delivery, Wolfe said when I handed him the receiver. One you will wish to examine. There was a pause. What kind of delivery? One that violates several statutes. Wolfe said, come at once. He hung up. Wolfe looked at me. Now tell me everything that occurred at Miss Hester's apartment. I did. From the unplugged phone to the turning knob. Wolfe listened without interruption. When I finished, he steepled his fingers. We have 2 messages, he said. One to Miss Hester, one to me. They are connected. How? I asked. By fear, Wolfe said, and by property. He frowned. The hand, did you recognize it? I shook my head. Number pity, Wolfe said. Nevertheless, it belongs to someone whose disappearance will be noticed, or deliberately not noticed. The doorbell rang. He opened it to find Inspector Kramer, hat tilted, coat buttoned, eyes already tired. All right, Wolfe, he said. What have you got? Wolfe gestured to the desk, an example of poor manners. Kramer followed his gaze and his face changed. Good Lord, he muttered. Yes, Wolfe said. Now sit down, Inspector, we have much to discuss. And the brownstone, which had been holding its breath, exhaled slowly, uneasily, because whatever rules had protected it were no longer enough. Chapter 3. The man at the door that evening, a man came asking questions he pretended were casual. He wanted to know if I had received the package. I sent him away with courtesy and contempt, but his eyes lingered on the house like they expected it to answer back. Fritz avoided my gaze afterward. Guilt, when it belongs to Fritz, is always deliberate. Inspector Kramer left the brownstone in a state of restrained profanity just before 6. He took the crate, the ice, and the wrapped obscenity with him, along with a promise to return with questions and warrants in roughly equal measure. He did not thank Wolfe. He never does. Gratitude suggests obligation, and Kramer prefers his irritation unencumbered. The house settled into an uneasy quiet. Fritz moved through the kitchen with mechanical precision, preparing dinner as if order could be restored by the proper handling of butter. Wolfe retreated to the plant rooms for his afternoon inspection, finding solace among orchids that obeyed rules and responded honestly to care. I stayed in the office, making notes, and considering the unpleasant truth that someone had crossed a line most criminals avoid, unless desperate or arrogant, or both. At 6:45, the doorbell rang. Not the long, respectful press of commerce, not the timid tap of a supplicant. This ring was brief, confident, and precisely timed, as if the finger on the button owned a watch and expected the house to respect it. I rose, adjusted my tie out of habit, rather than vanity, and went to the hall. The man at the door was alone. Mid-40s, average height, average build, average face. So average it had probably taken practice. He wore a dark overcoat that had seen better winters, and a fedora angled just enough to suggest personality without committing to it. His eyes were brown and alert, and they moved past me into the hall before I had invited them. Good evening, he said. His voice was pleasant, educated, and carefully unmemorable. I hope I'm not disturbing you. That depends, I said, on how long you plan to stay. He smiled faintly. Only a moment. I'm looking for Mr. Wolfe. You've found his house, I said. That's as close as most people get. My name is Edwin Marsh, he said, offering it like a business card he'd left at home. I represent certain interests. Everyone does, I said. State yours. He chuckled softly, as if I'd made a joke. I hear you received a delivery today. I leaned against the doorframe and crossed my arms. We receive deliveries every day, milk. Vegetables. Mail threats. You'll have to be more specific. His eyes flickered. Just a fraction. The package, he said. I nodded slowly. Ah, yes, he said, encouraged. That one, and you're asking, I said. Because. He said smoothly, it may have been sent in error. That's funny, I said. It arrived without a return address. Errors like that are hard to correct. He smiled again, thin this time. I assure you, it was not intended to cause alarm. That's a relief, I said. We were worried. He ignored the tone. If it was delivered here by mistake, arrangements can be made to remove it quietly. It's already been removed, I said. By whom? He asked quickly. The police, I said. That did it. The pleasantness cracked, not enough to be called panic, but enough to be diagnostic. His eyes sharpened, and his mouth tightened. I see, he said. That complicates matters. Life is full of complications, I said. You adapt. He studied me for a moment. Mr. Goodwin, is it? Yes, I said. And you are Edwin Marsh, he repeated patiently. As I said, and as I believed, I said. But names are cheap. Why are you here, Mr. Marsh? He took a breath. I wanted to confirm whether the delivery had arrived. It did, I said. And its contents, he pressed. Were unsatisfactory, I said. I'm thinking of returning them. He smiled again, but his eyes were cold. That would be unwise. Why? I asked. Because misunderstandings escalate, he said, and escalation benefits no one, except the person doing the escalating, I said. He ignored that. If Mr. Wolfe would care to discuss the matter, he would not, I said. I'm sure we could reach an arrangement, Marsh finished. I shook my head slowly. You've made two mistakes already. One, you assume Wolfe makes arrangements under pressure. Two, you assume you're applying pressure. Marsh's gaze slid past me again, toward the stairs, the walls, the very bones of the brownstone. This house, he said thoughtfully, has a reputation. Yes, I said, for discouraging foolishness. And yet, he said softly, Summoner sent a message. Yes, I agreed, for now. And now the police have it. He exhaled through his nose. Then I suppose there is nothing more to say. That's the first sensible thing you've said, I told him. He hesitated, then added, One more question, if I may. I won't answer, I said. Did you also receive? He said carefully. Any correspondence related to real property. That stopped me, but only internally. Outwardly, I kept my expression bored. You'll have to be more specific, I said. Quitclaim deeds, he said. I smiled. You ask very personal questions for a man who doesn't want attention. Marsh nodded slowly. Then good evening, Mr. Goodwin. Good evening, I said. Try not to come back. He tipped his hat, not quite politely, and turned away. But at the bottom step, he paused. He didn't look back at me. He looked at the house. Not the door, the house, as if he were listening. Then he left. I closed the door and stood there for a moment, listening to the ordinary sounds of the street reclaim their territory. Then I turned and found Fritz standing a few feet away, hands folded in front of him, his face carefully neutral. Who was that? He asked. A man with average everything and inconvenient curiosity, I said. Did you hear him? Yes, Fritz said, too quickly. I raised an eyebrow. All of it. Fritz hesitated. There it was again, that fractional pause that had become his tell. I heard enough, he said. That's what worries me, I replied. I went back to the office. Wolfe was already there, seated behind his desk, fingers steepled, eyes alert. The man asked about the package, I said, and about quitclaim deeds. Wolfe's eyebrows rose. Predictable. Describe him. I did. Wolfe listened, nodding occasionally. He represents certain interests, Wolfe said when I finished. A phrase beloved by men who wish to appear powerful without exposing themselves to indictment. He also knew my name, I added. Trivial, Wolfe said. You are not obscure. He knew about Marion Hester, I said, or at least about her problem. Wolfe's lips tightened. Then the connection is confirmed. Also, I said. He looked at the house like it might answer him. Wolfe snorted. It has answered many men, none favorably. There was a knock at the office door. Enter, Wolfe said. Fritz came in carrying a tray. Dinner, beef bourguignon, potatoes done properly, green beans bright and disciplined. He set the tray down with care. "Fritz," Wolfe said mildly, "did you hear the conversation at the door?" Fritz stiffened. "I heard voices." "Did you hear content?" Wolfe pressed. Fritz met Wolfe's gaze. He did not look away, but his eyes were troubled. "I heard mention of a package," Fritz said, "and of property." Wolfe nodded. "Did that surprise you?" Fritz hesitated. Then, "No, sir." That was it. Wolfe's eyes hardened. "Fritz," Wolfe said, "you are withholding information." Fritz drew himself up. "I did not intend. Intention is irrelevant." Wolfe snapped. "You have violated the one rule that governs this house. You tell me everything." Fritz swallowed. "Yes, sir." "Then do so," Wolfe said. Fritz took a breath. "Yesterday afternoon," he said, "before Miss Hester came, a man telephoned." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "What man?" "He did not give his name," Fritz said. "He asked if Mr. Wolfe was at home." "And you replied?" Wolfe demanded. "That you were occupied," Fritz said. Which was true. "What did he want?" Wolfe pressed. "He asked if we expected a delivery," Fritz said quietly. The room went still. "And what did you tell him?" Wolfe asked. "I said no," Fritz replied. "And then?" Wolfe said. "He said," Fritz continued, "if something arrives, you should not open it." Wolfe's face flushed, a rare and dangerous sign. "And you agreed?" Wolfe demanded. "No, sir," Fritz said quickly. "I said nothing. He thanked me and hung up." "And you did not report this to me?" Wolfe asked. "I did not wish to trouble you," Fritz said, "and I hoped nothing would come of it." Wolfe slammed his hand on the desk. The sound was sharp and final. "You hoped," Wolfe roared. "In my house?" Fritz bowed his head. "I am sorry, sir." Wolfe breathed heavily for a moment, then forced himself to calm. When he spoke again, his voice was icy. "That decision endangered this house and everyone in it." "I know," Fritz said. "I failed." "Yes," Wolfe said. "You did." I watched Fritz carefully. He was ashamed, genuinely so, and that disturbed me more than if he had been defensive. Fritz does not fail lightly. When he does, it means the pressure has been enormous. "Fritz," I said gently, "why didn't you tell Wolfe?" Fritz looked at me. His eyes were tired. "Because," he said, "the voice on the telephone. I knew it." Wolfe's head snapped up. "From where?" "From long ago," Fritz said. "From before I came to this house." Silence stretched. "That man," Fritz said, "worked for someone I once knew. Someone dangerous, someone who dealt in property, favors, and silence." Wolfe leaned forward. "Name him." Fritz shook his head. "I do not know his name, only his voice, and the butcher's stamp." Wolfe asked. "Connected," Fritz said. "All of it is connected." Wolfe sat back, his face grim. "Then we are dealing with an old adversary of yours, Fritz." "Yes," Fritz said. "And he has found his way here." Wolfe's mouth set. "Then he has made a grave error. Tell them. I want everything on Edwin Marsh, on any butcher named Gallo, on 9th Avenue, and on any recent real estate transfers involving the Hester family or land near Kingston." I grinned thinly. "We're going fishing." "No," Wolfe said. "We are hunting." Fritz stood silently, hands clasped, guilt heavy on him, but resolve beginning to replace it. The house, which had been listening all day, seemed to lean in. Whatever had come to its door was no longer merely knocking. Chapter 4. The missing night I discovered that Fritz had left the house 2 nights earlier, without informing me. That had not occurred once in 20 years. He claimed it was a walk for air, a foolish lie from a careful man. Lies rot structures from the inside. I made a note to examine the foundation. I did not discover it by accident. I discovered it because Nero Wolfe had become, by mid-morning, intolerably precise. When Wolfe is satisfied, he is expansive. When he is annoyed, he is theatrical. When he is disturbed, he is exacting, and the smallest deviation becomes intolerable. On that morning, he noticed that the bread at breakfast had cooled more than usual. "Fritz," Wolfe said, glaring at a slice as if it had insulted him personally, "this toast is inadequate." Fritz inclined his head. "I regret it, sir." "That is insufficient," Wolfe snapped. "Explain it." Fritz blinked, just once. "I misjudged the timing." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "You do not misjudge timing." "No, sir," Fritz agreed quietly. That was when Wolfe looked at me. When Wolfe looks at me that way, it means he has reached a conclusion and wants confirmation, or a witness. "Archie," he said, "how long has Fritz been unreliable?" I raised an eyebrow. "Define unreliable." "Define deviation," Wolfe countered. I thought for a moment. "Since Marion Hester came through the door." Wolfe nodded. "Before that?" "No," I said. "He's been Fritz." Wolfe grunted. "Precisely, therefore, something occurred before Miss Hester arrived." He turned back to Fritz. "What did you do the night before last?" Fritz froze, not visibly, not dramatically, but the stillness that came over him was unnatural, like a stopped clock in a room full of ticking ones. "I slept," Fritz said. That was the wrong answer. I watched Wolfe's face change. It didn't harden. It clarified. "Fritz," Wolfe said, his voice now dangerously calm. "What did you do the night before last?" Fritz's hands tightened on the back of the chair. "I went for a walk." There it was. In 20 years, Fritz had not gone for a walk at night without telling either Wolfe or me. Not once. He is a man who believes in informing people of his movements, because movement invites disorder. "Where?" Wolfe asked. "Near the river," Fritz said. "For how long?" Wolfe pressed. "An hour," Fritz replied. Wolfe leaned back, closed his eyes for a moment, and exhaled slowly, as if restraining himself from violence. "Archie," Wolfe said, opening his eyes, "was Fritz in the house all evening?" I nodded. "As far as I know. I went out around 9:30 to meet Saul Panzer. When I came back, the house was quiet." "At what time?" Wolfe asked. 11, I said. Wolfe turned back to Fritz. "Where were you at 11? Fritz hesitated. Then, "On my walk." "And when did you return?" Wolfe asked. "A little after midnight," Fritz said. I felt a small chill. Midnight is a long way from routine. "And you did not inform me," Wolfe said. Because, Fritz said carefully, "I did not wish to disturb you." "That," Wolfe said, "is a lie." Fritz bowed his head. I cleared my throat. "Fritz, I'm fond of you, but if you tell me you went strolling at midnight for fresh air, I'll assume you've taken up smoking." Fritz looked at me. "It was foolish," he said. "I know." "What was?" Wolfe demanded. "Leaving," Fritz said. "Going alone. Going where?" Wolfe snapped. Fritz hesitated again, and this time the hesitation had weight. "To 9th Avenue." That landed like a dropped plate. "The butcher," I said. "Yes," Fritz replied. Wolfe's eyes blazed. "Explain fully." Fritz drew a deep breath. The voice on the telephone troubled me. I recognized it, but I could not place it. I thought, if I went to Gallo's shop, perhaps I would see someone, or hear something, that would clarify matters. "At midnight," Wolfe said. "Yes, sir." "You went alone," Wolfe said. "Yes, and you did not inform me," Wolfe repeated. The shop was closed, but the light was on in the back. I waited across the street. "Like a spy," I muttered. "Like a fool," Fritz said quietly. "Who was there?" Wolfe demanded. "A man I knew," Fritz said. "Not Gallo, someone else. Someone from my past." Wolfe's fingers tightened on the arms of his chair. "Name him." "I do not know his name," Fritz said again. "I knew him only as Keller." "Keller," Wolfe repeated. "What did he do?" "He worked for a man who arranged things," Fritz said. "Property transfers, threats, accidents. He was the one who spoke on the telephone." "Are you certain?" Wolfe asked. "Yes," Fritz said. I heard him speak to another man. I recognized the voice. What did you do? Wolfe asked. I followed him, Fritz said. That stopped me. You did what? I said. I followed him, Fritz repeated. He left the shop and walked toward the river. I followed at a distance. Wolfe stared at him. This is madness. Yes, sir, Fritz said. Where did he go? Wolfe asked. To a warehouse near the docks, Fritz said. He met with another man. Describe him, Wolfe snapped. I could not see him clearly, Fritz said. But he was tall, well-dressed. He carried himself like a man accustomed to being obeyed. That narrows it to half of New York, I said. What did they do? Wolfe asked. They argued, Fritz said quietly but angrily. I heard the word, Hester. That sharpened the room. I also heard Kingston. Fritz added. Wolfe's eyes flicked to me. Note that. I already did, I said. What else? Wolfe asked. They mentioned a delay, Fritz said. And a mistake. Keller said something had gone wrong. The other man said it would be corrected. And then Wolfe asked. Then Keller left, Fritz said. The other man stayed. Did you see his face? Wolfe demanded. No, Fritz said. I was too far away. And you returned home, Wolfe said. Yes. And said nothing, Wolfe said. Yes. Wolfe sat very still. When he spoke, his voice was controlled, but it carried steel. Fritz, Wolfe said, you have endangered this household more severely than any enemy could have done alone. You went into the field, you gathered intelligence, and you withheld it. I know, Fritz said. I wish to spare you. You have failed, Wolfe said coldly. I do not require sparing. I require information. I accept your rebuke, Fritz said, without reservation. Silence followed. Then Wolfe sighed, heavily, and the anger drained out of him, leaving something more dangerous. Resolve. Very well, Wolfe said. We will proceed. Proceed how? I asked. Methodically, Wolfe replied. We now know that the threat to Miss Hester, the crate, the butcher, and the property near Kingston are part of a single enterprise. We also know that one of our enemies is reckless enough to involve you, Fritz. He looked at Fritz sharply. That implies familiarity and contempt. Yes, Fritz said. He believes I am weak. Wolfe snorted. He is mistaken. There was a knock at the office door. I opened it to find Saul Panzer and Fred Durkin standing there like a matched set of disapproval. You rang, Saul said. And we came, Fred added. Against our better judgment. Excellent, Wolfe said. Sit down. They did, gentlemen. Wolfe said. I require corroboration, Mr. Panzer. What do you have on Edwin Marsh? Saul adjusted his glasses. The name's a shell, he said. No significant records. But I found a man matching the description who's been using that alias to represent a holding company. Real estate, quiet acquisitions. Where? Wolfe asked. Upstate, Saul said. Near Kingston. That fit too neatly to be coincidence. Fred, Wolfe said. What about Gallo? Fred grimaced. He's scared, he said. Won't talk. But his shop's been moving unusual quantities of ice and crates. Not for meat. People? I asked. Fred nodded. Sometimes. Wolfe steepled his fingers. Then tonight, he said, Summonane will attempt to correct a mistake. Whose? I asked. Miss Hester's, Wolfe said, or ours. He looked at Fritz. You will not leave this house again without my consent. Yes, sir, Fritz said. And you will tell me everything, Wolfe added. Yes, sir, Fritz repeated. Wolfe turned to me. Archie, you will go to Miss Hester's apartment. You will ensure her safety, I nodded. With pleasure. And if anyone comes to the door, Wolfe said, you will observe. Closely, I said. Wolfe's eyes gleamed. Because tonight, he said. We move from being threatened to being informed. The house seemed to straighten itself, as if relieved. The rot had been located. Now it would be cut out. Chapter 5. Archie notices. Blood. Archie returned with news before I asked for it. A body had been found near the river, wrapped in butcher paper, hands stained with preserving salt. The dead man was known to run illegal supply routes through private residences. Archie did not need to say the rest. My house had been considered useful. I was in the office when Archie came in, and I knew the news before he spoke, because he did not speak at once. Archie's talkativeness is a barometer. When it drops to 0, pressure is imminent. He closed the door carefully behind him. Not quietly. Carefully, that distinction matters. Well, I demanded. He removed his hat, placed it on the chair, and sat down without invitation. That, too, was a deviation. I stopped by the river on the way back, he said. That was not your instruction, I replied. No, he agreed. But it was convenient. I glared at him. Proceed. They found a man near Pier 96, Archie said. Tied line wrapped in butcher paper, salted. Salted, I repeated. Explain. Preserving salt, Archie said. Coarse, the kind used when you want to keep something from spoiling long enough to move it. I closed my eyes briefly. The image was unnecessary. The implication was sufficient. Identity, I asked. Name was Louis Carp, Archie said. Alias collector, according to a detective who enjoys gossip. Carp specialized in moving things through places that didn't ask questions. Private houses, back staircases, freight elevators. He had a knack, and now he does not, I observed. No, Archie said. Now he's evidence. Hands, I asked. Archie nodded, stained with salt, raw, like he'd been handling it recently. That suggests participation, I said. Not merely disposal. That was my thought, Archie replied. I leaned back and considered the matter. A butcher's crate, preserving salt. A man accustomed to moving illicit cargo through private residences. The logic assembled itself without effort, like a puzzle designed by an amateur. Someone attempted to use my house as a conduit, I said. Yes, Archie said. And either Carp bungled it, or someone decided he knew too much. Or both, I said. Probably both, Archie agreed. I steepled my fingers. Did the police connect the body to us? Not officially, Archie said. Unofficially, Kramer is grinding his teeth. I permitted myself a thin smile. Good grinding teeth imply frustration. Frustration implies receptivity. Archie shifted in his chair. There's more. Of course there is, I said. There always is. They traced Carp's last known stop, Archie said. A brownstone, not ours. That is disappointing, I said. Give it time, Archie said. But the interesting part is where he was supposed to go next. And that is, I prompted. Here, Archie said. Silence followed. The office, which has endured many shocks, absorbed this one with decorum. Explain, I said. Carp had a note, Archie said. Not on him, on a man who didn't know he was carrying it, a runner. Address written in pencil, West 35th Street. I closed my eyes again, longer this time. So, I said. The crate was not merely a threat. No, Archie said. It was a rehearsal. And Carp, I asked, was part of the supply chain, Archie said. He moved crates that no one wanted to inspect. And when something went wrong, he became expendable. Indeed, I said. Expendability is the final qualification for that occupation. Archie leaned forward. Wolfe, someone thought they could move contraband through this house. Someone thought Fritz would not object or would not notice. I opened my eyes and looked at him sharply. Do not insult Fritz. I wouldn't, Archie said quickly. But someone thought they could exploit him. That, I said, is a more accurate formulation. I rose and crossed the office to the window, staring out at the indifferent city. New York has a talent for ignoring obscenity, unless it trips over it. That talent had served criminals well for generations. It would not serve them here. Carp's death, I said, is instructive. How so? Archie asked. Because it was messy, I replied. Salted hands suggest panic. Butcher paper suggests haste. A man with professional habits does not improvise so crudely unless pressed. So someone's timetable collapsed, Archie said. Yes, I said, and collapse produces errors. Archie nodded. That's why I came straight back. You are learning restraint, I said. I am proud, he grinned briefly, then sobered. There's another thing. The body wasn't complete. I turned. Explain. One hand was missing, Archie said. Left. I felt the final piece slide into place. The crate, I said softly. Exactly, Archie said. The hand in the crate didn't come from nowhere. It came from Carp. Then the crate was not random, I said. It was specific, a warning and a confession. A confession, Archie echoed. An admission of involvement, I said. They sent me evidence of their crime to frighten me into complicity. That's a lousy strategy, Archie said. It is an arrogant one, I corrected. They assumed I would prioritize comfort over principle. Archie snorted. They don't know you. No, I agreed. There was a knock at the door. Fritz entered, his expression composed but drawn. Mr. Wolfe, he said. Inspector Kramer telephoned. He wishes to see you this evening. I do not wish to see him, I said. But I will. Fritz hesitated. He also said, the man by the river was identified. Yes, I said. Mr. Carp, Fritz nodded slowly. Then it is as I feared. Did you know him? I asked. No, Fritz said. But I knew of him. He worked the same routes as Keller. Keller, Archie said. Fritz's ghost. Fritz did not object to the description. Fritz, I said. Did anyone ever approach you about using this house? Fritz met my gaze squarely. No, sir. Did anyone imply it? I pressed. Yes, Fritz said. Long ago, before I came here, they spoke of houses like this one, respectable, unquestioned. And you refused, I said. Yes, Fritz said simply. Then their interest now, I said, is either desperation or vengeance. Or both, Archie offered. Indeed, I said. I turned back to Fritz. Did you tell anyone that this house might be useful? Fritz's eyes flashed with hurt. Never. I did not accuse, I said. I inquired. He inclined his head. I understand. Archie rose. Wolfe, if Carp was part of the supply chain, and he's dead, someone will scramble to replace him. Yes, I said. And they will do so poorly. So what's next? Archie asked. Next, I said. We allow them to try again. Archie blinked. You want to leave the door open? Metaphorically, I said. Literally would be inconvenient. He considered it. You want them to make contact. I want them to reveal themselves. I corrected. A man who believes a house is useful will return to it. And if they try to force it? Archie asked. Then, I said, they will discover that usefulness has limits. The doorbell rang. We all looked at it. That was quick, Archie said. Patience. I said, this is likely Inspector Kramer. It was. Kramer entered with his usual air of resentment, as if the brownstone had summoned him personally. All right, Wolfe, he said. Talk. I intend to, I replied. But first, sit down. He sat. You have a body, I said, and I have context. Spare me the lecture, Kramer growled. Very well, I said. The dead man was part of an operation that attempted to use my house for illegal transport. When that failed, he was eliminated. A portion of his remains was sent to me as inducement. Kramer stared. You're telling me this after the fact. I am telling you now, I said. Which is the fact that matters? He rubbed his face. You're enjoying this. No, I said. I am offended. Kramer snorted. What do you want? I want protection for Miss Hester, I said, and I want surveillance on anyone approaching this house after midnight. That's not how it works, Kramer said. Then make it work, I replied, or explain to your superiors why organized criminals are auditioning my brownstone. He glared, then sighed. I'll post a man, one who is discreet, I said. This is not theater. Everything with you is theater, Kramer muttered. Incorrect, I said. This is war. That sobered him. He stood. I'll be in touch. When he left, Archie exhaled. Well, we're officially interesting. Yes, I said, and that is dangerous. I looked at Fritz. Prepare dinner. He nodded. Something hearty, he said, for resolve. Indeed, I said. As he left, I turned to Archie. You noticed blood. I usually do, Archie said. Then continue, I said. Because the next mistake they make will be larger and bloodier, Archie asked. Not if I can prevent it, I replied. But prevention, I knew, would require exposure, and exposure would require patience. Chapter 6. Fritz's private war. One confronted Fritz and received half a truth, delivered with the steadiness of a man bracing for judgment. The crate had contained stolen goods meant to be stored temporarily in my basement. Without my consent, Fritz intercepted it, moved it, and paid for that decision with threats. He believed shielding me justified silence. I did not raise my voice. That would have been vulgar. I summoned Fritz to the office after dinner, when the plates had been cleared and the house had resumed its accustomed quiet. The orchids were breathing evenly. The city beyond the windows had settled into its nocturnal impersonation of calm. It was the proper hour for candor. Sit down, I said. Fritz sat. He folded his hands in his lap. He did not look away. That alone distinguished this from confession. Fritz has never feared my gaze. He fears my disappointment. You have conducted an operation, I said. Without my knowledge, on my premises, involving criminal enterprise, I require a complete account. Yes, sir, he said. You will have it. Begin, I said. The crate, Fritz said, was not sent as a threat originally. It was sent as a delivery. That is not new information, I said. Proceed. It was intended, he continued, to be stored in the basement for one night. Only one. It would be retrieved before dawn. By whom? I demanded. The telephone call. You did not inform me, I said. No, he said. I did not. Why? I asked, though I already knew. Because, Fritz said evenly, if you had known, you would have refused, and if you had refused, they would have proceeded by other means. I stared at him. You presume to assess my reactions. Yes, Fritz said. I do. There it was, not defiance, conviction. You believed, I said, that temporary complicity was preferable to confrontation. No, Fritz said. I believed refusal would endanger you. That belief, I said, is arrogance. Yes, sir, Fritz said, but it was mine. I rose, walked to the window, then back again. My irritation was acute, but disciplined. What were the contents? I asked. Documents, Fritz said. And small items, portable, valuable, not money. Stolen, I said. Yes, from whom? I asked. I do not know, Fritz said. I was not told. You accepted this ignorance, I demanded. I accepted, Fritz said, that if the items were stored here, they would not be harmed, nor would anyone be harmed in retrieving them. I stopped. That, I said, is an extraordinary assertion, given recent events. Yes, Fritz said quietly. I was wrong. When did you intercept the crate? I asked. When it arrived, Fritz said. I recognized the stamp. I realized the risk. I arranged for it to be removed before it reached the house. Arranged how? I demanded. I contacted a man I trust, Fritz said. A driver. He diverted it. To where? I asked. A storage facility, Fritz said. Paid in cash, no name, and Keller. I asked. He came, Fritz said. He expected the crate to be here. And when it was not, I prompted. He was angry, Fritz said. He accused me of betrayal, which was accurate, I said. Yes, Fritz agreed. He threatened me. With what? I asked. With exposure, Fritz said. And with you. That sharpened my attention. Explain, he said. Fritz continued. That if I interfered again, he would involve you directly, that he would make you useful. I felt a flicker of genuine anger then, not the theatrical variety, but the cold, focused kind. And you responded, I asked. I said nothing. Fritz said. I returned home. And then, I said, the hand arrived. Yes. Fritz said, because they needed leverage. And Keller, I asked, dead. Fritz said, by whose hand? I demanded. Not mine, Fritz said firmly. I followed him. I saw him meet another man. I believe that man decided Keller was a liability. Because Keller failed, I said. Yes, Fritz said. Because the crate did not arrive. Then your intervention, I said, precipitated his death. Fritz met my gaze squarely. Yes. Silence filled the room, dense but controlled. Archie shifted in his chair but did not speak. He was wise enough to recognize a reckoning. You undertook, I said at last. A private war. Yes, Fritz said. I believed it was mine to fight. Why? I asked. Because, Fritz said, I have fought it before. Before I came here, I believed I could contain it. And you were mistaken, I said. Yes, he said again. I studied him. Fritz Brenner, who had been the axis of order in my house for decades, had chosen disorder deliberately. That fact disturbed me more than the criminality. You shielded me. I said, that was your intention. Yes, you endangered this household, I said. Yes. You violated my rule, I said. Yes. Then hear my judgment, I said. Fritz inclined his head. You will tell me everything, I said. Not half, not selectively, everything immediately. Yes, sir. You will not act independently again, I continued. Not from loyalty, not from fear, not from misplaced pride. Yes, sir. And, I said, you will assist in dismantling this enterprise completely. Fritz looked up. Gladly. Archie cleared his throat. Wolfe, for what it's worth, Fritz stopped the goods from ever coming here. That, I said, is the only mitigating factor. Fritz's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but relief. Where are the stolen goods now? I asked. Gone, Fritz said. After Keller's death, the storage facility was emptied. The driver reported men with a truck, no names. Then the goods are in circulation, I said, and the owners will notice. Yes, Fritz said. Which means, Archie said, someone else will come knocking. Precisely, I said. I leaned back in my chair. This enterprise deals in property, I said, and documents, likely deeds, titles, claims. Yes, Fritz said. That was my impression. Miss Hester's quitclaim deed, Archie said. Yes, I said. The stolen goods likely include instruments needed to legitimize fraudulent transfers. Upstate, Archie said. Kingston. Indeed, I said. They require Miss Hester's signature to complete a chain of title. And they were going to store the documents here, Archie said, because no one searches Nero Wolfe's basement. They miscalculated, I said. Fritz looked at me. They will not desist easily. No, I said. They will escalate. Archie grinned thinly. Good, they're predictable when they escalate. Predictable people, I said, are vulnerable. I rose. Fritz, this is no longer your war, it is mine. Yes, sir, he said. And you will not be punished, I added, watching him closely. He stiffened, sir. You erred, I said, but your motive was protection, not profit. I do not discipline loyalty, I direct it. Fritz bowed his head. Thank you. Archie stood. So what's next? Next, I said, we allow them to believe their intimidation has succeeded. Archie blinked. You want to fake compliance? Temporarily, I said. We will offer them precisely what they want, on our terms. And Miss Hester? Archie asked. She will not sign anything, I said, but they will believe she might. Fritz's eyes widened slightly. That is dangerous. Yes, I said, which is why it will work. I looked at both of them. Our opponents believe this house can be used. They will attempt to do so again. And this time, Archie said, we'll be ready. Indeed, I said. This time, the basement will not store goods. What will it store? Archie asked. Evidence, I said. The private war had ended. The public one was about to begin. Chapter 7, The Cost of Protection. The criminals did not appreciate interference. They assumed my refusal was arrogance instead of ignorance. Surveillance followed, pressure mounted, and the house became a target. What Fritz meant to prevent, he accelerated. Loyalty without disclosure is not loyalty. It is strategy gone feral. Pressure is rarely applied all at once. That would be crude. It comes in increments, like interest on a bad loan, designed to remind you that the debt exists and that someone is counting. The first sign was trivial. A taxi idled across the street for nearly an hour, its driver reading the same page of a newspaper without turning it. Archie noticed it because Archie notices taxis the way some men notice women. He remarked on it casually over lunch. Of course, Archie said. Everything is, until it isn't. By mid-afternoon, coincidence had acquired reinforcements. A man with a camera appeared on the opposite sidewalk, photographing the brownstone as if it were an architectural curiosity. He took pictures of the Fayad, the steps, the windows. He did not attempt subtlety. Subtlety had been abandoned in favor of implication. Brazen, Archie observed. Yes, I said. They believe themselves untouchable. That belief is common among men who mistake persistence for power. By evening, the pressure had matured. The doorbell rang twice, in rapid succession. While Fritz was serving dinner, I gestured for Archie to answer it. He returned with a thin envelope. No stamp, Archie said. No return address. Slid under the door. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a photograph. The paper contained one sentence: this inconvenience need not continue. The photograph depicted the back entrance to Marion Hester's building. The angle was intimate. The timing recent. Archie watched my face. They're reminding us they can multitask. Yes, I said, and that they misunderstand the word inconvenience. Fritz stood very still, his hands clenched at his sides. This is my fault, he said. No, I replied. It is their error. Yours was antecedent. He did not look comforted. That night, the surveillance became overt enough to be theatrical. A man rang the bell at 11, asked for directions to a non-existent address, and departed after examining the interior of the hall with unconcealed interest. Another walked past the house repeatedly, stopping each time to light a cigarette he never smoked. These were not professionals. These were messengers. They want a reaction, Archie said. They will receive none, I replied. At midnight the telephone rang. He answered it myself. Yes, Mr. Wolfe, said a familiar voice. Smooth, unmemorable, irritatingly calm. This is Edwin Marsh. You are persistent, I said. And you are uncooperative, Marsh replied. You telephoned, I said. Therefore you have something to say. Say it. There is an opportunity, Marsh said. One that would resolve matters amicably. You mistake me for a man interested in amicability, I said. A pause. You mistake us for men interested in patience. I do not, I said. You are interested in efficiency. You are failing. Another pause. The woman, Marsh said. Miss Hester, her signature would conclude things. It will not, I said. You speak with confidence, Marsh said, but you are not the one being inconvenienced. You are mistaken, I said. You are inconveniencing me. That ended the conversation. He hung up. Archie looked at me. That sounded productive. Extremely, I said. He has revealed impatience. Which means, Archie asked. That they are approaching the limit of their leverage, I replied. The following morning confirmed it. Saul Panzer arrived early, his expression grave. They're hemorrhaging, he said without preamble. It's about to be rezoned. Industrial to residential value spikes. Of course, I said. Timing is everything. They've already transferred partial interests using forged instruments. Saul continued. They need Hester's quitclaim to clean the chain, and without it, I asked. The whole structure collapses, Saul said. Exposes fraud, criminal liability, serious. Then the pressure will increase, I said. Yes, Saul agreed, exponentially. It did by afternoon. A brick shattered the office window. It did not strike anyone. That was intentional. It was wrapped in paper. On the paper was written, "Basement's flood." Archie retrieved it carefully. That's poetic. It is also inaccurate, I said. My basement is dry. They might try to change that, Archie said. Yes, I said, they might. Fritz entered quietly. Mr. Wolfe, he said, there is a man in the alley. Describe him, I said. He is pretending to be lost, Fritz said. He is very bad at it. I nodded. Archie, go and be helpful. Archie grinned and went out the back. He returned 10 minutes later. He left, Archie said, rapidly, slipped on the ice. Unfortunate, I said. Yes, Archie agreed. For him, the house had become a target precisely as Fritz had feared, but fear had not been avoided. It had merely been delayed and concentrated. Loyalty, when it withholds information, does not prevent harm, it redistributes it. That evening I called Mary and Hester. They are watching, I told her. You must remain where you are. They followed me today, she said quietly. I knew it. Did you speak to anyone? I asked. No, she said. I remembered your instructions. Good, I said. Continue to do so. What will happen? She asked. What always happens, I replied. Men who mistake pressure for power overextend. After I hung up, I looked at Fritz. You sought to protect me, I said. Yes, he replied. You have succeeded, I said, but not in the manner you intended. He bowed his head. I understand. Then understand this also, I said. The cost of protection is transparency. Anything less invites exploitation. Yes, sir, he said. The house endured the night under watchful eyes, but it did not bend. It had been mistaken for a conduit. It would become a trap, and those who believed pressure could extract obedience would soon learn the price of miscalculation. Chapter 8. When the house trembled a break, in came at dawn, clumsy but violent. Locks were damaged, doors scarred, orchids disturbed. The message was simple: cooperate or suffer. I do not negotiate with intimidation, but this time, the danger came from within as much as without. The brownstone has a particular sound when it is injured. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is a low, offended creak, like a civilized man discovering that his hat has been crushed. I heard it at 5:42 in the morning, a minute before the alarm would have rung, and I knew, before Archie burst into the bedroom, that something unforgivable had occurred. Wolfe, Archie said from the doorway, already dressed, voice tight. We've been visited. I rose at once. That alone should illustrate the gravity of the situation. I do not rise at once for fire, flood, or assassination attempts. I rose because the house had been violated. We went down together. The rear door bore the first insult. The lock had been forced, not expertly, but enthusiastically. The jamb was splintered. The door itself had been kicked, twice by the look of it, as if the man responsible had resented its resistance. Amateurs, Archie muttered. Crude ones, I agreed. They wanted to be heard. Inside, the damage continued in a language that required no translation. Drawers opened and dumped. A chair overturned. The rug near the stairs pulled back, exposing the floorboards beneath. Not because anyone believed there was something hidden there, but because they wanted us to know they had looked. Then we reached the plant rooms. I stopped. One does not rush into sacrilege. The orchids had been disturbed, not destroyed. That would have been inefficient, but handled. Pots shifted. A bench overturned. One rare specimen lay on its side, soil scattered like a rebuke. I felt a physical tightening in my chest. They touched them, I said. Archie nodded grimly. That was deliberate. Yes, I said. This was not burglary, this was punctuation. Fritz stood behind us, pale, rigid, his hands clenched. He said nothing. He did not need to. They wanted to hurt you, Archie said quietly. They wanted to provoke me, I corrected. Hurting me was incidental. I bent with care and righted the fallen plant. The roots were intact. The damage was reparable. That, too, had been intentional. They had wanted me to see restraint, to understand that escalation was optional. I despise optional threats. We continued through the house. Nothing was missing. Nothing of value had been taken. The office door had been forced, but the desk drawers were untouched. The basement door bore fresh scratches, as if someone had considered entering and then decided against it. They didn't go down, Archie observed. No, I said. They wanted us to imagine what might have happened if they had. The police arrived within minutes. Kramer himself, unshaven, irritated, and already tired of the day. Break in, he said unnecessarily. No, I replied. Demonstration. He surveyed the damage, grimaced at the plant room, and shook his head. You're pushing them. They began, I said. I am responding. They don't think so, Kramer said. They think you're being difficult. I am, I said. That is not illegal. He sighed. Any idea who did it? Yes, I said, but proof requires patience. Kramer looked at me hard. Somebody's going to get hurt. That, I said, is what they intend. He left promises behind him. More patrols, more attention, more frustration. None of it would matter. Patrols deter amateurs. These men were desperate. When the house had been put back in order, I summoned Fritz to the office. Sit, I said. He did. This morning, I said. You hesitated. Yes, he replied. Why? I asked. Because, Fritz said carefully, I believed they would stop at threats. You believed, I said. Yes. That belief, I said, has now been disproven. Yes. Fritz said. I watched him closely. You have not told me everything. He looked up, startled. Sir, there is still something you are withholding, I said. Not from loyalty, from fear. Fritz was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. There is a man, he said. The one Keller met at the warehouse. I did not tell you everything about him. Explain, I said. He is not merely an associate, Fritz said. He is the organizer. Name him, I said. I cannot, Fritz said. I do not know it. Describe him, I demanded. Fritz's voice dropped. He is careful. He never raises his voice. He allows others to believe they are acting independently, and when they fail, they disappear. Archie folded his arms. Sounds charming. He knew me, Fritz continued, not by name, but by reputation. He knew I would intervene, and he counted on it. Counted on it, I repeated. Yes, Fritz said, because my intervention would provoke you. I considered that. They wanted escalation, Archie said slowly. They wanted Wolfe involved. Yes, I said, because Wolfe is predictable to men who mistake principle for habit. I leaned back. This was not punishment, I said. It was invitation. To what? Archie asked. To negotiation, I said. On their terms. And you don't negotiate, Archie said. With intimidation, I agreed. But I do negotiate with information. I turned to Fritz. Your danger, I said, is not from them alone. He stiffened, sir. You are emotionally involved, I said. That makes you vulnerable. Yes, he admitted. And vulnerability, I said, invites manipulation. Yes, I softened my tone slightly. You are not dismissed, but you are no longer to act as a buffer. You will be protected, not utilized. Fritz bowed his head. As you wish. Archie broke the silence. So what's the move? The move, I said, is to allow them to believe their message was received. Archie frowned. You want to look shaken. I am shaken, I said, but not submissive. Then what? Archie pressed. Then, I said, we arrange a meeting. With criminals? Archie asked. With men who believe themselves businessmen, I corrected. They prefer offices. And where does Miss Hester fit? Archie asked. She does not attend, I said. She is the prize. They will not risk her presence. I stood. They want to talk very well. They will come here. Archie blinked. After this? Precisely because of this, I said. They have crossed into my territory. And if they try something else? Archie asked. They will not, I said. They have made their point. Now they will seek closure. The house had trembled. It would not tremble again, because when men resort to intimidation, it is because reason has failed them, and reason, once reclaimed, can be lethal. Chapter 9. Fritz confesses. Fully. Fritz told me everything at last. Names, routes, payments, and the man now dead. He accepted responsibility without excuse, stating only that the house was mine, and therefore sacred. His voice did not tremble. Mine did not rise. Respect does not negate consequence. I required privacy, not the theatrical privacy of closed doors and lowered voices, but the genuine article, the removal of witnesses, the suspension of interruption, the narrowing of attention. I dismissed Archie to the front room with instructions to make himself useful by being absent. He understood. Archie understands the difference between curiosity and necessity. Fritz and I sat in the office, facing one another across the desk that has borne testimony to more human frailty than any courtroom. You will begin, I said. At the beginning. Fritz nodded once. He did not clear his throat. He did not fidget. He spoke as a man who has completed the internal argument and found no acceptable defense. The man you call Keller, he said, was named Louis Carsten. I noted it. He worked. They acquired land through partial interests, forged instruments, intimidation, and, when required, violence. And the organizer? I asked. Fritz inhaled slowly. His name is Victor Talman. That at last was a name. Proceed, I said. Talman did not appear in transactions, Fritz said. He did not sign documents. He did not issue threats. He spoke rarely. When he did, it was to give permission, never instruction. A delegator, I said. Yes, Fritz agreed. He cultivated distance. He allowed men like Carsten to believe they were indispensable. And then, I said, he disposed of them. Yes, I waited. 2 years ago, Fritz continued, Talman acquired an option on land near Kingston. Quietly, he did so through intermediaries. When the rezoning became likely, he moved to consolidate ownership. Miss Hester, I said. Yes, Fritz said. Her father's sale was defective, a signature missing, a release improperly executed. Talman discovered this and exploited it. Explain the stolen goods, I said. Documents, Fritz replied. Original deeds, court filings, surveyor's notes, items removed from municipal storage and private offices. They were moved periodically to avoid detection. Through private residences, I said. Yes, Fritz said, temporarily. One night, sometimes less. And my house, I asked, was identified. Fritz said, as beyond suspicion. By whom, I asked. By Carsten. Fritz said, he knew of you, he believed. Incorrectly, that your reputation insulated you. Your reputation, I said, is a fragile shield. Yes, Fritz said. I told him no. And yet, I said. And yet, Fritz continued, when the call came, I did not immediately refuse. I sought information. That was my error. Carsten arranged the shipment, Fritz said. When I diverted it, he panicked. He feared Talman. He attempted to correct the error by intimidation. And failed, I said. Yes, Fritz said. Talman decided he was unstable. Explain the death, I said. Fritz's expression did not change. Carsten was summoned to the warehouse. He argued. He threatened exposure. Talman allowed him to speak. Then Talman left. And Carsten, I asked, was killed by another man, Fritz said. A subordinate efficiently. The hand, I said. A message, Fritz said. To you, and to me, to you, I asked. Yes, Fritz said, to punish me for interference. And to me, I asked. To warn you, Fritz said, that your house was no longer inviolate. Payments, I said. Cash, Fritz replied. Couriered, no banks. Carsten paid drivers, clerks, and occasionally police. Names, I asked. Yes, Fritz said, I will provide them. Routes, I asked. Primarily at night, Fritz said. Private houses, back entrances, basements, always temporary. And Miss Hester, I asked. Unharmed, Fritz said, thus far, because she is essential. And if she ceases to be? I asked. Fritz met my gaze. Talman prefers finality. I absorbed that. When Fritz finished, the silence that followed was not heavy. It was complete. You have told me everything, I said. Yes, Fritz replied. You have accepted responsibility, I said. You have endangered this household, I said. Yes. You acted, I said, without malice and without profit. Yes. You acted, I continued, from loyalty. Yes. Then understand this, I said. Fritz straightened. Loyalty, I said, is not authority. Devotion is not discretion. You assumed a burden that was not yours. Yes, he said. And yet, I continued, your intent was protection. Yes, therefore, I said, your consequence will not be dismissal. Fritz's eyes flickered, surprise quickly mastered. Nor will it be absolution, I added. He nodded. You will remain, I said. You will assist, you will testify if required. Yes, sir. And you will trust me, I said, to defend what is mine. He bowed his head. I do. I stood. One more matter. Yes, he said. You said the house was sacred, I said. Yes, Fritz replied. You were correct, I said, but sacred things are not hidden. They are defended openly. He met my gaze, and for the first time since this began, relief crossed his face. Archie knocked lightly and entered without waiting. All set? He asked. Yes, I said. We have names. That's my favorite kind of set, Archie said. Contact Inspector Kramer, I said. Tell him that I will receive him this afternoon and that he should bring warrants. Archie grinned. Music to his ears. I turned back to Fritz. Prepare lunch. Yes, sir. And Fritz, I added. He paused. You were correct about one thing, I said. The house is sacred. He inclined his head. Which is why, I concluded, those who violated it will answer here. Respect had been preserved. Consequence would follow. Chapter 10. The trap is set, using the information Fritz withheld. I arranged a meeting with those who believed they could corner me. Archie played messenger. I played bait. Criminals depend on fear and haste. I offered neither. When the police arrived, confusion did the rest. I did not telephone Victor Talman. Men like Talman distrust telephones. They prefer intermediaries, couriers, layers of insulation that allow them to believe they are untouchable. Telephoning him directly would have suggested urgency. I wished to suggest inevitability. Therefore, I sent Archie. Archie enjoys such assignments. He is congenial without being submissive, confident without being provocative, and he possesses the invaluable ability to appear less dangerous than he is. He returned in under 2 hours, wearing the expression of a man who has delivered a message and enjoyed the reaction. He accepted, Archie reported, didn't hesitate. Of course not, I said. He believes I am contained. He also believes, Archie added, that you're tired. I permitted myself a faint smile. Then he is doubly mistaken. The meeting was scheduled for 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Talman would come with counsel, he always did, and with one associate, no more. He would not risk appearing weak, nor would he risk excess witnesses. Men who control others are economical with their displays. Inspector Kramer arrived at 3:30, already irritated. "You're sure about this?" he demanded. "Yes," I said. "Talman will attend. He believes he is negotiating." "I am concluding," I replied. Kramer grunted. "We'll be upstairs, out of sight." "Do not," I said, "interfere unless invited." He glared. At 4 precisely, the bell rang. Archie admitted them. Victor Talman was unimpressive to the careless eye, middle-aged, well-dressed, hair precise, expression neutral. He carried himself without hurry, as if time were an accessory he could afford to ignore. The man with him, introduced as counsel, had the look of a man who billed by the hour and expected obedience by the minute. Talman surveyed the office with mild curiosity, then the orchids beyond, then me. "Mr. Wolfe," he said, "you live comfortably." "I live deliberately," I replied. "Sit." He did. His counsel remained standing until Talman gestured him down. "You have information," Talman said, "and concerns." "I have conclusions," I said. "Concerns are for amateurs." Talman smiled faintly. "Directness is refreshing." "It is also efficient," I said. "Which you value." His eyes sharpened slightly. "Proceed." "You are attempting," I said, "to consolidate ownership of rezoned land near Kingston through fraudulent transfers. You require Miss Marion Hester's quitclaim deed to perfect title." "That is an allegation," his counsel interjected. "No," I said, "it is a summary." Talman waved his hand, silencing the attorney. "And you wish compensation?" "No," I said. Talman's smile thinned. "Then you wish protection?" "Number." "Then what?" Talman asked. "Do you want?" "I want you," I said calmly, "to understand why you will fail." Silence followed. Talman studied me more carefully now. "You attempted," I continued, "to use my house as a conduit. When that failed, you attempted intimidation. When that failed, you escalated to vandalism." Talman's expression did not change. "You have no proof." "Incorrect," I said. "I have timing, motive, method, and confession." "Confession," his counsel said sharply. "Yes," I said, "from your associate Louis Carston, shortly before his death." Talman's eyes flickered. That was all, but it was enough. "You are accountable for what followed," I said. "Delegation is your habit." "This meeting is over," Talman said, rising. "No," I said. "It is nearly complete." Inspector Kramer and 2 detectives entered from the side door, warrants in hand. For the first time, Victor Talman's composure fractured. Conspiracy, obstruction. Talman did not protest. He sat down again slowly, calculation racing behind his eyes. "You will regret this," he said to me. "No," I replied. "I will forget you." He was escorted out, still silent. Dignity preserved, but power extinguished. Afterward, the house was quiet, temporarily. Archie exhaled. "That," he said, "was effective." "Yes," I agreed, "for now." Fritz entered, carrying a tray with coffee. His movements were steady, his gaze met mine without fear. "It has begun," he said. "Yes," I replied. "It is." "I am grateful," Fritz said. "As am I," said. Archie grinned. "Semi time tomorrow." "Yes," I said. Routine has its virtues. The brownstone breathed more evenly. Order had been interrupted, not resolved. By truth, and that, in my experience, is where protection truly begins. Chapter 11. Order resumed. Trust-strained arrests were made, threats evaporated, and the house exhaled. Yet something had cracked that could not be repaired with routine. Fritz had decided for me once, and that is a liberty no man earns. Forgiveness is not absolution, it is permission to continue. The brownstone returned to its habits with the speed of a well-trained animal. By the following morning, the sidewalks were empty of watchers. The telephone rang only with banalities. and the city resumed its useful fiction that nothing exceptional had occurred on West 35th Street. Order is resilient. It is trust that limps. Inspector Kramer telephoned at 9. His tone was grudgingly civil, which passes for warmth. "They're holding Talman without bail," he said. "Council's noisy, judges aren't impressed. Kingston's a mess, paper trails everywhere." "Competence," I said, "is often betrayed by its absence." "Your cook's testimony helped," Kramer added. "Yes," I said, "it would." Kramer cleared his throat. "You did good work." I replaced the receiver without responding. Praise from Kramer is a form of static. It interferes with thought. Breakfast was served at the usual hour. Fritz's eggs were perfect. The coffee was exact. The toast was hot. The rituals had survived the insult. Fritz stood as he always did, attentive, respectful, unassuming. He did not attempt conversation. He did not avert his eyes. He waited. Archie watched the exchange with professional neutrality, which is to say with curiosity concealed behind manners. "After breakfast," I said. "Fritz, sit." He did. "Yesterday," I said, "we concluded an unpleasant matter." "Yes, sir," he replied. "Consequences," I continued, "do not end with conclusions." "No, sir, you decided," I said, "to act on my behalf without consultation." "Yes, you did so from loyalty," I said. "Yes." "You were wrong," I said. "Yes." He agreed. There it was, complete and sufficient. No excuses, no self-pity. Fritz has never defended error. He absorbs it. "Trust," I said, "is not the absence of doubt. It is the presence of disclosure." "Yes, sir," Fritz said. "You believed," I continued, "that shielding me justified silence." "Yes." "It does not," I said. "It substitutes your judgment for mine." "Yes," he said again. I paused. Words matter most when they are few. "You remain," I said, "because loyalty that errs can be corrected, disloyalty cannot." Fritz inclined his head. "Thank you, but," I added, "you will not presume again, not to protect me, not to spare me, not to decide for me." "I will not," he said. Archie cleared his throat. "For the record," he said, "I like the house better when it's not being auditioned by criminals." "So do I said. Miss Hester telephoned later in the morning. Her voice was steadier. "They told me it was over," she said. "Is it?" "Yes," I replied. "You may resume your life." She hesitated. "I don't know how to thank you." "You need not," I said. "Order is its own reward." After the call, I sat alone in the office for a time. The orchids required attention. They always do. Care is a discipline. Neglect is a decision. I adjusted a pot, corrected a leaf, restored a symmetry that had been disturbed, but not destroyed. Trust is like that. It can be righted. It cannot be pretended. Archie lingered at the doorway. "You all right?" "Yes," I said. He nodded. "Good, because if you weren't, I'd have to pretend not to notice." I permitted myself a small smile. "Routine," I said, "has resumed." "Trust," he asked. "Trust," I replied, "has been bruised. Bruises heal if not struck again." He considered that. "You think Fritz learned?" "Yes," I said, "which is why he stays." The house settled, not into complacency, but into awareness. That is the proper state of order, not blind, not anxious, merely exact. Forgiveness had been extended. Not as absolution, but as permission to continue correctly. And that, in a house built on rules, is the only kind that matters. Chapter 12. The rule rewritten. Fritz still cooks my meals and guards my routines, but silence no longer masquerades as service. I did not dismiss him because loyalty, even flawed, is rare. But the rule now has teeth. Protecting the house requires truth, especially from those who love it most. Rules endure only if they evolve. A rule that cannot survive stress is not a rule. It is a habit. Habits comfort. Rules protect. On the morning after order was restored, I amended one. It was not ceremonial. There was no pronouncement, no raised voice, no audience. I revised it quietly, as one revises a flawed proof, by identifying the false assumption and eliminating it. The assumption had been this, that silence, when motivated by loyalty, could ever be harmless. It cannot. Breakfast proceeded with its usual precision. Fritz's timing was exact. The coffee arrived at the proper temperature. The eggs were beyond reproach. If routine were evidence of contrition, Fritz would have been acquitted without deliberation, but routine was not the matter at issue. Afterward, I remained at the table. "Fritz," I said. "Remain." He did. "In this house," I continued, "there has always been one governing principle." "Yes, sir," he replied. "You must be told everything." "That principle," I said, "has now been refined." He waited. "Silence," I said, "will no longer be interpreted charitably." He nodded. "Understood." "Nor," I added, "will loyalty be accepted as justification for independent judgment." "Yes, sir." "You may advise," I said. "You may warn, you may object, you may argue." "Yes, sir." "You may not decide," I concluded. "No, sir." That was sufficient. Fritz understands economy. Archie, who had been listening with deliberate inattention, cleared his throat. "So," he said, "same rule, just sharpened." "Precisely," I replied. "Blunt instruments bruise indiscriminately. Sharp ones discriminate." Archie grinned. "I'll put that on a plaque." "No," I said. "Put it into practice." Life resumed. That is the test of resolution. Not drama, but durability. The orchids flourished. The mail arrived. Clients came and went, bringing their petty miseries and solvable puzzles. Fritz performed his duties with the same devotion as always, but now with an additional quality, transparency. He spoke when there was nothing to say, which is how one prevents catastrophe. Once, a week later, he paused at the office door. "Yes," I said. "There was a man," Fritz said, "who asked questions on the street, and—" I prompted. "I told him nothing," Fritz said, "but I am telling you." I inclined my head. "Correct." The house approved. It always does, when its rules are obeyed. Archie leaned against my desk that afternoon, idly flipping through a file. "You know," he said, "most bosses would have fired him." "Yes," I replied. "You didn't," Archie said. "Number, why?" he asked. "Because," I said, "loyalty that errs can be corrected. Absence of loyalty cannot be manufactured." "And the rule?" Archie asked. "The rule," I said, "now has consequence." He nodded. "That's fair. Fairness is irrelevant. Effectiveness is not." As evening settled over West 35th Street, the brownstone breathed evenly. Not complacently, not fearfully. Precisely, it had been tested. It had not failed. It had learned. So had we all. The rule still stands. I must be told everything. But now it carries an addendum, unwritten yet understood. Silence is not service. Protection without truth is betrayal, and in this house, truth is not merely preferred, it is required.